Geographical explorations. Introduction. Causes that led to geographical exploration, major discoveries, impact of geographical exploration. So, we go for introduction. In the medieval period, the main trade routes joining the east and the west were the Mediterranean and Baltic seas. The main routes are Mediterranean Sea and Baltic Sea. They are the most important commercial highways of those days. The merchants from Europe and Asia came to trade the goods through these routes in the city of Genoa and Venice. The route was used by merchants of Europe till the mid-century. By the mid-century, the European demand for luxury goods from Asia was in great demand. However, trade received a setback due to political development in the Middle East. So, in the year 1453, Turks defeated the ruler of Byzantine Empire and conquered Constantinople. They closed down the land route to Asia. The fall of Constantinople triggered geographical exploration as it became necessary to discover new sea routes from Europe to Asia. This was because Constantinople was at the center of all land. These land routes from Europe to Asia, and these routes came under the control of the Ottoman Turks. A need was felt to find an alternative trade route that would be safer, convenient, and most important, not under the control of any power. Causes that led, now this is the introduction. Now, causes that led to geographical explorations. First, capture of the city of Constantinople. So, Europe had a profitable trade with Asia before the Turks conquered Constantinople in 1453. The closure of the trade route by land forced the European to look for alternative routes. Eastern luxuries and adventure. Europeans had information about the wealth of the eastern countries through various records written by earlier travelers. The visit of Marco Polo to the court of Kublai Khan in China in the 13th century and bringing back the precious stones from the empire made the European traders dream of amassing wealth. The rich people in Europe had developed a taste for luxurious articles obtainable from the East by trade with Asia, such as silk from China and cotton goods and precious stones from India. Therefore, the Europeans were compelled to find new sea routes to the east. Many young Europeans were inspired by the spirit of adventure to sail into the unknown and thus to discover undiscovered lands. Spread of Christianity. There began in Europe a powerful Christian missionary movement, the leaders of which were prepared to convey the message of Christ in the new regions. Along the European merchants, the missionaries sailed to the unexplored lands. Increase in geographical knowledge of European. Several books published during this time inspired the explorers. Books such as a merchant handbook, which dealt with all the known trade routes between the West and the Far East, and the geography by Ptolemy, acted as the guide to new explorers. This provide impulse to geographical exploration and discoveries. The invention of mariner's compass with a magnetic needle gave direction toward the north. Thus, the mariner compass, the astronomical, the improvement in shipbuilding, and the art of map making with the great accuracy supplied a new impulse to geographical exploration and discoveries. Patronage of kings. Geographical discoveries and exploration would not have been possible without royal patronage. The royal families of Portugal and Spain gave financial assistance to the voyages of discovery and explorations. Major discoveries. Portugal and Spain were the first European countries to take lead in the discovery of the sea route. So, Portugal's exploration. Prince Henry, styled as navigator, founded the first school for seamen at Sagres and provided every possible help and encouragement to voyages. Under the patronage of Henry the Navigator, annual expeditions were organized to explore the coast of Africa. For that purpose, he called for the service of learned geographers, map makers, sailors, and ship designers. He improved the sailing ship caravel capable of long voyages in stormy weather. Through the open sea, the expeditions under the patronage of Henry explored several islands and western coast of Africa and claimed the Madeira Island, the Azores, and the West African Guinea coast. Here, he established the Portuguese settlement. Secondly, the explorers had access to several navigation aids. The mariner's compass was an ancient Chinese invention that provided navigators with the direction in which they were sailing. The compass was of great help whenever they were in need to navigate into the deep oceans. The contribution of the Portuguese navigator was as under: Bartholomew Dias. Under the royal patronage, Bartholomew Dias sailed south of the South Africa coast in 1488. He named it the Cape of Storm, as he was caught in one such storm. However, its name later changed to the Cape of Good Hope by Vasco da Gama, since it provided hope to navigators to sail further. Vasco da Gama was commissioned to proceed further than the Cape of Good Hope. He sailed around the African continent and landed at Calicut on the west coast of India in the year 1498. He met the ruler of Calicut, Zamorin, and secured trading concession for Portugal. He returned to Portugal with spices and precious stone. Thus began the European trade with India. The Spanish exploration. The Spanish geographical exploration proved to have far-reaching consequences in history. They discovered the America. They began during the reign of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. In 1940, that is, was Christopher Columbus. In 1490, Columbus, an Italian sailor from the city of Genoa, after a careful study of the globe, concluded that the far east might be reached more quickly and easily by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. Financed by Queen Isabella of Spain, Columbus sailed on 23rd August 1492 to reach the far east. After a long, tedious and dangerous voyage, on 12th October 1492, he landed on the island that he believed it to be India. Columbus named the native Indians. He discovered the coast of Caribbean Sea, Venezuela, and Central America. Later on, it was realized that it was altogether a new continent of America. Amerigo Vespucci. The exploration of Columbus inspired others to follow him. He had discovered the American continent. However, it was an Italian named Amerigo Vespucci who made several voyages after 1497 and explored it further. He supplied geographic detail about the land and its people discovered by him, and recognized it all together as a new world. This continent was named as America in his honor. Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan sailed from Spain with 5 ships in September 1519. He crossed the Atlantic and rounded South America through the straits and saw a new ocean. He named it the Pacific. Magellan sailed across the Pacific Ocean and landed on the Philippine island. Magellan, however, lost his life in a fight with the native of Philippines island. On 27th April 1521, out of the total of 5 ships, only Victoria reached Sevilla Harbor, returning via the Cape of Good Hope and thus back to Europe. That was the first voyage around the world and one of the greatest in all history. The English exploration. In 1547, King Henry VII of England employed an Italian from Genoa, John Cabot, to sail the northwest route to China and India. He crossed the Atlantic, reached the shore of northeast of North America and discovered Newfoundland and Cape Breton. This enabled England to assert its claim over the mainland of North America. Impact of geographical exploration. The geographical exploration and discoveries produced consequences of immense importance in human history. These were as follows: growth in overseas trade. The European imported spices from Asia and other items from America. They also exported European manufactured goods to Asia and Africa, where they founded European colonies. This led to remarkable improvement in the mechanism of the exchange of goods, including credit institutions, commercial banks, and other instruments known as mercantile capitalism. Accordingly, every commercially minded European monarch aimed at increasing his country's export as much as possible, but now raw material and at decreasing imports as much as possible, so they could make maximum profits. The geographical exploration and discoveries led to colonization. The European immigrated in vast numbers to the newly explored areas where they founded their colonies, ruled over the native and ruthless exploited. The Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the French, and the English establishment colonial empires in Asia, Africa, and America. The geographical exploration led to a race for colonies among the European powers. Colonialism also led to the spread of Christianity in colonies, emergence of the slave trade. When the Portuguese and Spanish explored and founded their overseas colonies, they realized that the institution of slavery could be profitably used for operation of mines and large plantations. The European powers used the inhabitants of the colonies as the forced labor force. Native from Africa were enslaved and transported for sale. That led to the emergence of triangular slave trade between Europe, Africa, and America. The destruction of indigenous civilization. Europeans considered themselves as superiors over the people of the colonies. The indigenous civilization were destroyed and Western culture was imposed on them. The European destroyed the ancient civilization of Mexico, Peru, and Brazil. This is end of chapter 1.